Now we're going to remove the two upper strut mount bolts. It's not the center nut, just the two upper. And it's 14 millimeter, so you can access it with a wrench once you've gotten the floor right out of the way. So I'll loosen it up, and then I'll get my ratchet wrench, my gear. Now just do the same thing to the other side. So before you undo the bottom bolt, you want to put pressure with a pole jack on the actual suspension and bring it up to what they call ride height. So 19 millimeter socket and a 19 millimeter wrench on the back side. You don't need to. So now that we have the shocks unbolted from the top, and we're going to raise it up and take the bottom off. This is a little trick from Subaru. You're going to need your floor jack. You're going to ask why, but you're going to find out why. So before you put your rear shock up in, take your new mounting nuts off the top of the strut mount. Now you could, if you're doing this on your back with a jack stand and a jack, you could put these up and then put these on to help hold them. But I'm working up in the air, so I'm going to use a jack to hold the rear shock in place while I maneuver the rear control arm on place. All right, so now we can see that I'm going to put the actual shock up in, line up those two spots, and I'm using my pole jack to hold that in place. I'm going to just raise it up, not much pressure. So now this is where your actual car jack comes into play. We're going to have to lower the suspension down so it actually lets the low bolt get mounted. So put the base of it on the actual rear sway bar right here, and I like to put the pinch rail style part up into this body. Then we're going to actually take the crank that comes with the jack, and we're going to crank it. And you can see how the suspension is coming down. So now we're going to line these bottom shock bolts up with the actual knuckle. Just pay attention to what's being pushed and pulled. Now I'm going to just put my bolt through. All right, put your nut on. I'm going to take the pressure off of the car jack for safety reasons. 19 millimeter wrench and a socket, and I'm just going to snug it before I torque it. I'm going to get my torque wrench, and the torque spec is 46 foot-pounds. So I'm going to take my new mounting hardware for the top of the shock, and I'm going to place the nuts on and snug them down. These are self-locking nuts. The torque spec is 22 foot-pounds, but I'm going to do it by hand with a wrench, only because it's going to be kind of difficult getting a socket in there. And if 22 is the actual torque spec, I know I'm not going to put it as tight as I can go. So the new nuts are actually a 15 millimeter wrench. I'm going to snug them up. And like I said, the torque spec is 22 foot-pounds. It's next to impossible to get in here with a socket. Now we're going to put our jack back in place where it belongs. Lug wrench. And then the actual crank bar. Set that back in place. Got that little plastic push pin, goes right there. And now we can lay in the side carpet. And these have little pins that snap down. Put the center carpet in. Put our rubber mat. Let's put the seats back the way they were.